The black Tesla Model S sat motionless on the shoulder of Highway 101, its hazard lights blinking like a digital heartbeat in the pre-dawn darkness. Steam rose from beneath the hood where sophisticated electronics had failed in the most primitive way possible, overheating. Inside the vehicle, a man in worn jeans and a faded SpaceX hoodie stared at the dashboard's error messages, a slight smile playing at his lips. This wasn't how most billionaires spent their Tuesday mornings, but then again Marcus Chen had never been most billionaires. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Marcus had purchased this particular Tesla from a used car lot 3 states away, paying cash and using a fake name. No special modifications, no executive features, just a standard Model S that any middle-class professional might drive. He'd been conducting these experiments for months now, testing something that couldn't be measured in quarterly reports or stock valuations. He wanted to understand the true character of ordinary people when they thought no one important was watching. The irony wasn't lost on him that the founder of 3 revolutionary companies was sitting helpless beside a California freeway, dependent on the kindness of strangers. His phone had multiple contacts who could have a replacement vehicle there within the hour, but that would defeat the purpose. Today Marcus Chen was just another stranded motorist hoping someone would stop to help. A few cars had already passed, their drivers barely glancing his way as they rushed toward whatever urgent appointments filled their mornings. Marcus didn't blame them. In today's world, stopping for strangers felt dangerous, and most people assumed anyone driving a Tesla could afford to call for professional help. They weren't wrong, but they were missing the point entirely. The sun was beginning to paint the eastern horizon when Marcus heard footsteps on gravel. He looked up to see a figure approaching through the morning mist, pushing a shopping cart loaded with what appeared to be an entire life compressed into garbage bags and cardboard boxes. The man was perhaps 50, with weathered hands and clothes that had seen too many seasons. His beard was neatly trimmed despite his circumstances, and his eyes held an alertness that spoke of intelligence rather than the vacant stare Marcus had expected. "Car trouble?" the stranger asked, his voice carrying a slight accent that Marcus couldn't immediately place. There was no judgment in his tone, no calculation about whether this might be worth his time. Just genuine concern for a fellow human being in distress. Marcus nodded, gesturing toward the hood. "Something's overheating. Dashboard says multiple system failures, but I'm not exactly a mechanic." He studied the man's face, looking for signs of recognition, but found none. "Perfect. Mind if I take a look?" The stranger was already setting down his cart, producing a small toolkit from one of his bags with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd learned to be prepared for anything. "Name's David Rodriguez. Been working on cars since I was 12, though these electric ones are still teaching me new tricks." "Marcus," he replied, offering only his first name, "and I'd appreciate any help you can give. I'm pretty much stuck here otherwise." David popped the hood and immediately began examining the complex array of electronics and cooling systems with the methodical approach of an experienced technician. His hands moved with surprising confidence among components that would intimidate most mechanics. He traced wiring harnesses, checked fluid levels, and tested connections with tools that looked well used but carefully maintained. "Your auxiliary cooling pump failed," David announced after 15 minutes of careful inspection. "Caused a cascade failure in the thermal management system. The car's basically protecting itself by shutting down before any permanent damage occurs." He looked up at Marcus with a slight grin. "Good news is it's fixable. Bad news is you'd normally need Tesla service for this kind of repair." Marcus felt his eyebrows rise. This homeless man had just diagnosed a complex electrical failure that had stumped Tesla's own diagnostic system into throwing generic in. Normally, David was already rummaging through his cart, producing what looked like a makeshift electrical testing kit and several small components wrapped in anti-static bags. "I've got a compatible pump here. Pulled it from a wrecked Model 3 about 6 months ago, been saving it for the right moment." He paused, studying Marcus's expression. "I know how this looks, homeless guy with Tesla parts, but I used to work in automotive electronics, still do when I can find the work." "What happened?" Marcus asked, genuinely curious now. There was clearly more to David Rodriguez than his current circumstances suggested. David's hands stilled for a moment as he prepared to install the replacement pump. "Company I worked for got bought out by a larger corporation. New management decided they could outsource our entire engineering department to cut costs. 37 people lost their jobs in one afternoon, including me." He resumed working, his voice steady but carrying undertones of old pain. "Had a house, 2 cars, was putting my daughter through college, thought I'd find something else quickly. Man with my experience and skills. Marcus watched David's efficient movements as he continued the repair, clearly following a mental checklist developed through years of professional experience. The irony was staggering. Here was a man who'd lost everything to corporate cost-cutting, now freely helping the very type of executive who might have made such decisions. But the job market for automotive electronics specialists isn't what you'd expect. David continued, connecting new wiring with precise twists and waterproof connectors, especially for someone over 45. Companies want young engineers they can pay less and work harder. Experience becomes a liability instead of an asset. He tested the connection with a multimeter, nodding at the reading. Took through my savings in 8 months, lost the house after 14, been on the streets for almost 2 years now. What about your daughter? Marcus asked quietly. David's smile was proud despite it. Sophia's finishing her master's in biomedical engineering at Stanford, doesn't know about my situation, still thinks I'm consulting and traveling for work. I call her every Sunday from the library, make sure she focuses on her studies instead of worrying about her old man. He sealed the electrical connection and began reassembling the cooling system housing. She's going to change the world someday, design medical devices that help people. That's worth more than my pride. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. Here was a father sacrificing everything to ensure his daughter's future while asking for nothing in return. David had just spent an hour diagnosing and repairing a complex electrical failure, using his own parts and expertise for a complete stranger. And he was doing it with genuine care and professionalism, as if Marcus were a paying customer rather than a random encounter on a highway. There, David said, wiping his hands on a relatively clean rag. Try starting her up now. The replacement pump should handle the cooling load just fine. Might want to have the system professionally serviced soon, but this'll get you where you're going safely. Marcus turned the key and the Tesla hummed to life with all dashboard warnings cleared. The repair was flawless, performed with the skill of a master technician. David, this is incredible. What do I owe you? David was already packing his tools away, shaking his head. Nothing, man. Just pay it forward when you get the chance. Help someone else who's stuck. He paused, looking slightly embarrassed. Though if you've got a couple dollars for coffee I wouldn't say no. There's a diner about 5 miles up that doesn't mind my kind. Marcus reached for his wallet, then stopped. This was the moment he'd been waiting for, the test he'd designed. David Rodriguez had just performed expert automotive repair work, using his own parts for a stranger who could easily afford professional service. He'd done it without expectation of significant payment, motivated purely by kindness and professional pride. This was exactly the type of character Marcus had been searching for through months of manufactured emergencies. David, Marcus said carefully, before I pay you, I need to tell you something. My name isn't just Marcus, it's Marcus Chen. David looked puzzled for a moment, then his eyes widened slightly. Chen, as in Chen Industries, the guy who founded those electric vehicle companies and the space program. He studied Marcus's face more carefully, recognition dawning. You're testing people, aren't you? Seeing how they treat strangers when they think nobody important is watching. Marcus nodded slowly. I've been doing this for months, different scenarios, different places, looking for proof that genuine kindness still exists, that people can still surprise you with their care. He gestured toward the repaired car. You just spent your morning, your parts, and your expertise helping someone you thought was just another stranded driver. You did it perfectly, professionally, and asked for almost nothing in return. David was quiet for a moment, processing this revelation. So what now? Was I supposed to recognize you, treat you differently, because you're famous? Exactly the opposite, Marcus replied. You treated me like a human being who needed help. You shared your story, your skills, your time. You did it because it was the right thing to do, not because you thought it might benefit you. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through contacts. David, how would you feel about running the automotive division of a new company I'm starting? David stared at him. I don't understand. Chen Industries is launching a new subsidiary focused on electric vehicle service and repair. We need someone to head up the technical training programs, develop service protocols, manage a team of specialists. Marcus smiled. Someone with real-world experience who understands both the technology and the human side of the business. Someone who can teach others not just how to fix cars, but how to treat customers with respect and care.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story.
You're offering me a job? Just like that? I'm offering you the chance to build something meaningful, full salary, benefits, equity in the company. And David? Marcus paused. Sophia's student loans? Consider them paid. She should focus on changing the world, not worrying about debt. David sat down heavily on his cart, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Marcus replied. Say you'll help me prove that character matters more than credentials, that kindness and competence can coexist, that the best solutions come from people who understand what it means to struggle. David looked up at Marcus, tears beginning to form in his weathered eyes. My daughter, she's been so worried about money, about student loans, about whether she'll find work after graduation. She's brilliant, but she's been stressed about everything except her studies. She won't have to worry about any of that anymore, Marcus assured him. In fact, if she's interested, we've got internship programs that might be perfect for someone with her background. Medical devices are absolutely part of our future technology development. David stood up slowly, extending his hand to Marcus. Then yes, absolutely yes, though I have to ask why you're doing this. You could hire any engineer, any executive. Why take a chance on someone like me? Marcus shook David's hand firmly. Because someone like you just spent an hour proving that expertise without ego, skill without arrogance, and success without losing your humanity is exactly what the world needs more of. He gestured toward the Tesla. You didn't just fix my car, David. You reminded me why I started building companies in the first place, to solve problems and help people. Over the following weeks, David Rodriguez's transformation was remarkable to witness. Marcus had arranged for temporary housing while David got back on his feet, but more importantly, he'd given him purpose again. David threw himself into developing training programs with the passion of someone who'd been given a second chance at professional relevance. The automotive service division grew rapidly under David's leadership. His approach combined technical excellence with genuine care for customers, creating a service experience that set new industry standards. He hired other experienced technicians who'd been overlooked by traditional companies, building a team that understood both advanced technology and human dignity. Sophia Rodriguez couldn't believe the call from her father. After 2 years of carefully managed conversations where David had hidden his circumstances, he was finally able to tell her the truth, not just about his homelessness but about his new position, her cleared student loans, and the internship opportunity waiting for her at Chen Industries. Papa, why didn't you tell me? She asked through tears during their first video call from his new apartment. I would have helped, I would have found a way. Because your job was to learn and grow, Misha, David replied. My job was to make sure nothing got in the way of that. Besides, everything happened exactly as it was supposed to. I met someone who reminded me that good people still exist, who believe in second chances. Sophia joined Chen Industries as a biomedical technology intern 6 months later, working on projects that combined her medical device expertise with the company's advanced materials and electronics capabilities. Watching her work alongside some of the brightest minds in technology, David felt a pride that had nothing to do with his own success and everything to do with seeing his daughter thrive. Marcus often visited the automotive division, partly for business reasons but mostly because David had become a trusted advisor and friend. Their relationship had grown beyond the initial rescue scenario into something based on mutual respect and shared values. You know what I learned from that morning on the highway? Marcus asked David one evening as they reviewed expansion plans for the service division. That your test worked. David replied with a slight smile. That I wasn't testing other people, Marcus said. I was testing myself, testing whether I'd recognize real character when I saw it, whether I'd have the courage to make decisions based on who someone is rather than what their resume says. David nodded thoughtfully. And now I'm building the kind of companies I wish existed when you lost your job, Marcus replied. Places where experience matters, where character counts for something, where people don't become disposable just because they cost more than a recent graduate. The Chen Industries automotive division became known throughout the industry not just for technical excellence, but for their treatment of both employees and customers. David's influence created a culture where expertise was valued, where people were treated with respect regardless of their circumstances, and where second chances were seen as opportunities rather than risks. A year after their highway encounter, Marcus and David stood together at the opening ceremony for Chen Industries' new technical training center. The facility would provide certification programs for automotive technicians, with a special focus on electric vehicle technology. Scholarship programs ensured that financial circumstances wouldn't prevent talented individuals from accessing the training. You realize what you've done? Marcus asked David as they watched the first class of students tour the state-of-the-art facilities. Built a good program. David replied modestly. You've proven that the most important technology isn't in the cars, Marcus said. It's in the people who design them, build them and service them. It's in the character that drives innovation rather than just profit. David watched Sophia explaining biomedical applications to a group of fascinated students. His daughter had grown confident in her abilities, no longer burdened by financial stress or uncertainty about her future. She was free to pursue her passion for helping others through technology. Sometimes I think about that morning, David said. What would have happened if I'd just walked past your car, if I'd assumed someone driving a Tesla didn't need help from someone like me? But you didn't, Marcus replied. That's the point. When you saw someone who needed help, you stopped. You used your skills to solve their problem. You asked for almost nothing in return. That's not luck or coincidence, that's character. David smiled, remembering the shopping cart that had contained his entire life just over a year ago. My wife used to say that kindness is never wasted, even when it seems like nobody notices. She died believing that good people would find their way to each other eventually. She was right, Marcus said. And she'd be proud of what you've built here. Not just the program, but the proof that her philosophy works. As the sun set over the new training facility, Marcus reflected on how a simple test of human character had transformed into something much larger. David Rodriguez had fixed more than just an overheated Tesla that morning. He'd restored Marcus's faith in the possibility that business could be a force for good, that success could be measured in more than just financial returns. The story of their highway encounter had spread throughout Chen Industries, becoming part of the company culture. New employees heard it during orientation, not as a feel-good anecdote, but as an explanation of what the company valued. Character over credentials, kindness over calculation, the willingness to help others, especially when it seemed like no one important was watching. David's daughter Sophia had graduated with highest honors, and was now leading research into affordable medical devices for underserved communities. Her work combined the technical excellence her father had taught her with the compassion her mother had modeled. She was indeed changing the world, one innovation at a time. Marcus continued his experiments occasionally, though now they served a different purpose. Instead of testing whether kindness existed, he looked for people who embodied it. The Chen Industries recruitment team had developed an unconventional approach to hiring, creating scenarios that revealed character alongside competence. They found former teachers who'd left education due to budget cuts but retained their passion for helping others learn. They discovered engineers who'd been laid off by cost-cutting corporations, but had used their unemployment to volunteer for community projects. They hired service workers who treated every interaction with dignity and professionalism, regardless of the customer's attitude or status. The company became known as much for who they hired as for what they produced. Industry analysts initially questioned the approach, wondering how a company could succeed by prioritizing character over conventional qualifications. The answer came in the form of consistent innovation, exceptional customer loyalty, and employee retention rates that were the envy of Silicon Valley. David often told the story to new hires, emphasizing that everyone's contributions mattered, regardless of their background or current position. He'd learned that homelessness didn't erase expertise, that circumstances didn't determine character, and that the most meaningful opportunities often came disguised as ordinary moments. The morning I met Marcus, he would tell training classes, I wasn't thinking about landing a job or impressing anyone important. I was just trying to help someone whose car had broken down. But that decision to stop, to offer my skills, to treat a stranger with respect changed everything. Marcus had proven that true leadership meant recognizing and nurturing the potential in others, even when it appeared in unexpected packages. David had proven that dignity and competence could survive any circumstances, that character revealed itself through actions rather than words. Their partnership had created something neither could have achieved alone, a company that succeeded by remembering that behind every innovation, every product, every service, there were human beings deserving of respect and opportunity. They'd built proof that business could be both profitable and purposeful, that the bottom line didn't require abandoning basic human decency. The black Tesla that had brought them together was now displayed in the lobby of the training center, with a small plaque telling the story of their meeting. It served as a reminder that the most important technologies were often the oldest ones: kindness, competence, and the courage to help others when they needed it most. Years later, When business schools studied the Chen Industries model, they would focus on the innovative training programs, the unique hiring practices, and the exceptional customer service standards. But those who worked there understood that it all traced back to a single moment on Highway 101, when two strangers discovered that character was the most valuable currency in any exchange. David Rodriguez had fixed much more than an overheated cooling pump that morning. He'd helped repair Marcus Chen's faith in humanity, and Marcus had done more than offer David a job. He'd given him the chance to prove that everyone deserved the opportunity to contribute their gifts to the world. The story became legend within the company, passed down through each new generation of employees as proof that who you are matters more than where you come from. That kindness creates opportunities that no amount of networking or strategic planning could generate. That the best solutions to complex problems often come from people who understand struggle, loss, and the value of second chances. In the end, it wasn't about a billionaire testing humanity, or a homeless man proving his worth. It was about two people recognizing something valuable in each other, and having the courage to act on that recognition. It was proof that character reveals itself in quiet moments, when no one important is supposed to be watching, and that those revelations can change everything. The boardroom at Chen Industries had never seen anything quite like the presentation David Rodriguez was about to deliver. 3 months after his highway encounter with Marcus, David stood before a panel of investors, venture capitalists, and industry executives, who controlled hundreds of millions in potential funding. His once weathered hands now wore a simple gold watch, a gift from Sophia, and his beard was professionally trimmed, but his eyes still held the same quiet confidence that had impressed Marcus on that foggy morning. Marcus sat at the far end of the polished mahogany table, watching the faces of men and women who measured success in stock options and quarterly projections. They'd agreed to this meeting based on Marcus's reputation, but their expressions suggested skepticism about the unconventional choice for automotive division head. David had insisted on presenting the expansion plans himself, despite Marcus's offer to handle the investor relations. "Ladies and gentlemen," David began, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was proposing. 3 years ago, the automotive service industry generated over $200 billion in revenue. Yet customer satisfaction ratings remain among the lowest of any service sector. Today I'm going to show you how we can capture a significant portion of that market while fundamentally changing how people experience vehicle maintenance. He clicked to his first slide showing customer complaint data from major automotive service chains. The primary issues aren't technical competence, though that's certainly a factor. The real problems are trust, transparency, and respect. Customers feel manipulated, overcharged, and dismissed. They accept poor service because they believe they have no alternative. Rebecca Morrison, a venture capitalist known for her aggressive questioning, leaned forward. "Mr. Rodriguez, with respect, customer service improvements don't typically justify the kind of investment we're discussing. What makes your approach different from hiring better customer service representatives?" David had anticipated this question, because we're not just improving customer service, we're redesigning the entire interaction model. He advanced to a slide showing side-by-side comparisons. Traditional service centers treat customers as interruptions to their workflow. Our model treats vehicle maintenance as collaborative problem-solving between experts and owners. He walked to the presentation screen, pointing to specific elements of his proposed service experience. Every interaction begins with education, not sales. We explain what we're examining, why it matters, and what options exist. We use augmented reality displays to show customers exactly what we're seeing under their hoods. We provide detailed explanations in language they can understand, not technical jargon designed to intimidate. James Whitfield, representing a major pension fund, raised his hand. "This sounds expensive. How do you maintain profitability while providing this level of service?" "By eliminating the adversarial relationship between service providers and customers," David replied. "When customers trust you, they return. They refer others. They choose preventive maintenance over emergency repairs. Our pilot program in San Francisco shows customer retention rates of 93% compared to industry averages of 38%. The room stirred with interest. David continued, "We're also eliminating the traditional commission structure that incentivizes unnecessary repairs. Our technicians are salaried professionals focused on optimal solutions, not maximum revenue per interaction. This actually increases profitability because satisfied customers spend more over time than manipulated customers spend once." Sarah Chen, no relation to Marcus despite the shared surname, represented an automotive parts manufacturer. Mr. Rodriguez, your background is impressive, but you've been out of the mainstream industry for several years. How do we know your approach will scale beyond boutique operations? David paused, recognizing the subtext of her question. She was asking how a formerly homeless man could understand the complexities of large-scale business operations. Miss Chen, you're absolutely right that I've had an unconventional path to this position. That perspective is actually our competitive advantage. He clicked to a new slide showing demographic data. The average customer feels intimidated and powerless when dealing with automotive service. They've been conditioned to expect dishonesty and overcharging. I understand that feeling intimately, not just professionally but personally. I've been in situations where I couldn't afford necessary repairs, where I had to choose between car maintenance and other essential expenses. The room was completely quiet now, everyone listening intently. That experience taught me something that traditional industry executives might miss, David continued. Customers don't just want honest service, they want to feel respected and understood. They want to trust that the person working on their vehicle cares about their situation, not just their wallet. Our approach succeeds because it treats every customer interaction as an opportunity to demonstrate competence and character simultaneously. Marcus watched the investors' faces, seeing the exact moment when David's authenticity began to overcome their initial skepticism. This was why he'd insisted on David presenting himself rather than relying on polished consultants or marketing teams. Robert Hayes, representing an insurance company interested in partnerships, asked, "What about staffing? Can you find enough technicians who share this customer-focused philosophy?" David smiled, advancing to a slide showing their recruitment and training metrics. "We're not trying to retrain existing industry workers to care about customers. We're finding people who already possess those qualities and teaching them advanced technical skills. Our training program partners with community colleges, veterans programs, and career transition services." He highlighted specific examples. Maria Santos was a high school science teacher for 15 years before budget cuts eliminated her position. She now leads our hybrid vehicle specialist team and has developed training modules that make complex electrical systems understandable to both technicians and customers. Robert Kim was an Army mechanic who struggled to find civilian employment that valued his discipline and attention to detail. He's now our quality assurance supervisor and has a 99.7% accuracy rate on diagnostic assessments. The key insight, David continued, is that technical skills can be taught much more easily than character traits like empathy, integrity, and genuine desire to help others. We recruit for character and train for competence, not the other way around. Jennifer Walsh from a major investment bank consulted her notes. "Your financial projections show aggressive growth targets. How do you plan to maintain quality standards while expanding rapidly?" "Through systematic knowledge transfer and cultural reinforcement," David replied. "Every new location begins with a core team trained at our primary facility. They spend 6 months learning not just technical procedures but the philosophy behind our customer interactions. We document everything, not just repair procedures but communication approaches, problem-solving methodologies, and ethical guidelines." He showed a detailed organizational chart. Each regional manager is promoted from within our system, ensuring they understand and embody our values. We don't hire executives from traditional automotive companies because we're building something fundamentally different. Every leader has personally worked on vehicles and directly served customers. Marcus decided to interject. "What David's describing isn't just a business model. It's a proof of concept that character-based hiring can outperform credential-based hiring in measurable ways. Our pilot locations consistently exceed industry benchmarks for customer satisfaction, employee retention, and profitability." Rebecca Morrison leaned back in her chair, studying David carefully. "Mr. Rodriguez, I have to ask directly. 6 months ago you were homeless. Today you're requesting $50 million to revolutionize an industry. That's an extraordinary transition. How do we evaluate the risk of such rapid change in circumstances?" David met her gaze steadily. "Miss Morrison, my circumstances changed, but my character didn't. The skills I used to diagnose complex electrical failures while living on the streets are the same skills I use to analyze business challenges today. The determination that kept me maintaining professional standards despite personal hardships is what drives my commitment to excellence in this venture."
He paused, choosing his words carefully.
"You're absolutely right to question whether someone can transition from homelessness to business leadership effectively. But consider this, I've already been tested under conditions more challenging than any boardroom presentation. I've maintained technical competence, professional integrity, and personal dignity when I had every excuse to abandon them. The room was silent, everyone processing this direct acknowledgement of the elephant in the room. More importantly, David continued, my experience gives me insight into customer perspectives that traditional executives might miss. I understand what it feels like to be dismissed, to be treated as less important, to have your concerns minimized. That understanding drives every aspect of our service philosophy. Thomas Richardson, representing a pension fund, raised a practical concern. What about competition? Major automotive chains have significant resources. How do you prevent them from simply copying your approach? David smiled. They can copy our procedures, but they can't copy our people. Character-based hiring isn't a strategy you can implement overnight. It requires fundamental changes in company culture, recruitment processes, and management philosophy. Most established companies are too invested in their current approaches to make those changes. He advanced to a slide showing competitor analysis. Traditional automotive service companies are optimized for short-term revenue extraction. Their commission structures, upselling quotas, and profit margins all depend on customers feeling pressured and uninformed. Changing that model would require admitting their current approach is fundamentally flawed. Marcus added, we're not just competing on service quality. We're demonstrating that ethical business practices can be more profitable than manipulative ones. That's a message that resonates with consumers who are tired of feeling exploited. Dr. Patricia Williams, representing a medical device company interested in the biomedical applications David had mentioned, asked about the technology integration aspects. You've mentioned augmented reality and educational tools. How significant is the technology investment? Substantial but manageable, David replied. We're partnering with Chen Industries' technology division to develop custom applications. The AR diagnostic tools allow customers to see exactly what technicians are seeing, eliminating the information asymmetry that enables dishonest practices. He demonstrated with a tablet, showing how the system worked. When we inspect a brake system, customers see real-time images of their brake pads, rotors, and fluid levels. They understand why maintenance is necessary, rather than simply being told it's necessary. This builds trust and enables informed decision-making. The educational component extends beyond individual repairs, David continued. We're developing comprehensive vehicle ownership resources. Customers learn how to recognize early warning signs, understand maintenance schedules, and make informed decisions about repairs versus replacements. Sarah Chen asked about the broader implications. This sounds like you're trying to educate customers out of needing your services. Exactly the opposite, David replied. Educated customers become worse. They understand the value of preventive maintenance. They make decisions based on long-term vehicle health rather than immediate costs. They trust our recommendations because they understand the reasoning behind them. He clicked to customer testimonial data.
Our pilot customers average 37% higher annual service spending than industry norms, but they report 96% satisfaction with value received. They're spending more because they're getting more value, not because they're being manipulated.
Rebecca Morrison consulted her financial analysis. Your projections assume significant market penetration and premium demographics. How do you plan to serve price-sensitive customers? David had anticipated this question as well. Through transparent pricing and flexible service options, we offer diagnostic services separately from repairs, allowing customers to understand their vehicle's condition even if they can't afford immediate fixes. We provide detailed repair prioritization, helping customers address critical issues first while planning for less urgent maintenance. He showed a slide depicting their tiered service model. We also partner with community organizations to provide reduced-cost services for families in financial distress. This isn't charity, it's investment in long-term customer relationships. People remember businesses that help them during difficult times. Marcus watched the investor's body language, noticing the shift from skepticism to genuine interest. David's presentation was working because it combined practical business insights with authentic personal conviction. James Whitfield raised a strategic concern. What about geographic expansion? Automotive service is inherently local. How do you maintain consistency across multiple markets? Through careful market analysis and cultural adaptation, David replied. We're not trying to impose a uniform model everywhere. Instead, we identify the specific trust and service gaps in each market and adapt our approach accordingly. He displayed a map showing planned expansion phases. Rural markets have different needs than urban centers. Agricultural communities value durability and cost-effectiveness. Urban professionals prioritize convenience and transparency. Suburban families focus on safety and reliability. Our core principles remain constant, but their implementation varies based on local priorities. Dr. Williams asked about the timeline for expansion. Your projections show rapid scaling. What are the key milestones and potential bottlenecks? Staff recruitment and training represent our primary bottleneck, David admitted. We're not just hiring mechanics, we're building a culture. Each new employee must understand both technical requirements and customer interaction philosophy. That takes time and careful attention. He outlined their staffing strategy. We're partnering with vocational schools, veterans organizations, and career transition programs to identify candidates who possess the character traits we value. The technical training is intensive but achievable. The cultural integration is ongoing and requires constant reinforcement. Thomas Richardson asked about financial controls and risk management. With this level of autonomy for individual technicians, how do you prevent fraud or incompetence? Through systematic oversight and cultural accountability, David replied. Every repair recommendation is documented with photographic evidence and detailed explanations. Customer communications are recorded and reviewed. Most importantly, technicians understand that their reputation and career advancement depend on customer satisfaction, not sales volume. He showed their quality control metrics. We track customer feedback, repeat business rates, and long-term vehicle performance. Technicians receive regular feedback on all these measures. Poor performance is addressed through additional training, not punishment, unless ethical violations are involved. The presentation continued for another hour, with David fielding increasingly detailed questions about operational procedures, financial projections, and competitive strategies. His responses demonstrated both deep technical knowledge and genuine understanding of customer psychology. As the session concluded, Rebecca Morrison summarized the key concerns. Mr. Rodriguez, you've presented a compelling vision, but it requires investors to believe that character-based hiring and customer-focused service can generate superior returns in a traditionally low-margin industry. David nodded. I understand the skepticism. I'm asking you to invest in a fundamentally different approach to business relationships. But consider the alternative. Traditional automotive service continues to frustrate customers, exploit information asymmetries, and generate minimal customer loyalty. That model is increasingly unsustainable as customers become more informed and have more choices. He paused, looking around the room. We're offering proof that treating people with respect and competence can be more profitable than exploiting their vulnerabilities. That's not just a business opportunity, it's a moral imperative. Marcus concluded the presentation. David's vision represents everything Chen Industries stands for. We're not just building a service chain, we're demonstrating that business success and human dignity can coexist. The financial returns are important, but the real value is proving that character matters in commerce. The investors filed out, their conversations revealing mixed reactions. Some remained skeptical about the scalability of David's approach. Others were intrigued by the customer satisfaction data and financial projections. A few seemed genuinely inspired by the possibility of ethical business practices generating superior returns. David gathered his materials, exhausted but satisfied with his performance. He presented his vision honestly and comprehensively, addressing concerns while maintaining his conviction that curious. Marcus approached as the room emptied. How do you think it went? David considered the question carefully. I think we gave them everything they need to make an informed decision. Some will invest based on the financial projections, others will pass because they don't believe the model can scale. But everyone understands what we're trying to build. And if they say no, David smiled, the same quiet confidence that had impressed Marcus on the highway. Then we'll find other investors who share our values. The vision is too important to compromise just to secure funding. Over the following weeks, investor responses trickled in. Several firms declined, citing concerns about the unconventional approach and David's limited executive experience. But others were intrigued by the customer satisfaction data and the potential for market disruption. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elizabeth Harper, who represented a foundation focused on ethical business practices, called Marcus directly. Mr. Chen, we're prepared to provide the full $50 million, but with specific conditions about maintaining the character-based hiring and customer service standard. Marcus was surprised. Dr. Harper, I don't recall your organization being part of the original presentation. We weren't, she replied. But word of Mr. Rodriguez's presentation reached our board. We're very interested in supporting businesses that demonstrate ethical practices can be profitable. Your automotive division represents exactly the kind of proof of concept we want to fund. The funding came through within a month, allowing David to begin the next phase of expansion. But more importantly, it validated the principle that character-based business could attract investors who valued more than just financial returns. Sofia Rodriguez watched her father's transformation with amazement and pride. The man who had hidden his circumstances for years was now leading investor presentations and building something that would help thousands of people. His success proved that character could overcome any temporary setbacks. "Papa," she said during one of their regular dinners, "do you ever think about what would have happened if Mr. Chen's car hadn't broken down that morning?" David considered the question seriously. "I think we would have found each other eventually." Good people have a way of recognizing each other, regardless of circumstances. Maybe it would have taken longer, but the connection was inevitable. He smiled, remembering that foggy morning that had changed everything. Besides, his car didn't really break down. He was testing whether people would stop to help a stranger. "I just happened to be the person who passed his test." Sophia laughed. "You didn't just pass his test, Papa. You taught him that the test was worth conducting." As David prepared for the next phase of expansion, he reflected on how much had changed since that morning on Highway 101. He'd gone from invisible to influential, from struggling to thriving, from hidden to proud. But the core of who he was remained unchanged, and that consistency had become the foundation for everything he was building. The automotive service revolution was just beginning, but its success was already proving that could be the ultimate competitive advantage. 2 years later, David Rodriguez stood in the main assembly hall of the Rodriguez Automotive Training Institute, watching the graduation ceremony for their largest class yet. 147 students were receiving certifications in advanced electric vehicle maintenance, each one representing a life transformed through education and opportunity. Among them sat former teachers, displaced factory workers, military veterans, and recent immigrants, all united by their commitment to excellence and integrity in automotive service. Chen sat in the front row, no longer the mysterious billionaire conducting secret tests of humanity. He had become something more valuable, a friend who understood that true success meant lifting others up rather than standing above them. The institute bore David's name not because of ego, but because Marcus had insisted that the man who'd stopped to help a stranger deserved recognition for the revolution he'd sparked. Sofia Rodriguez walked across the stage to receive her doctorate in biomedical engineering. Her research focused on developing affordable diagnostic tools for rural communities. Her work combined automotive sensors with medical applications, creating devices that could monitor vital signs with the same precision her father brought to engine diagnostics. The pride in David's eyes was unmistakable as he watched his daughter accept her degree, knowing that her education had been secured by a chance encounter on a foggy highway. The Rodriguez Automotive Centers had expanded to 37 locations across 6 states, each one maintaining the original vision of combining technical excellence with genuine care for customers. Employee satisfaction surveys consistently showed retention rates above 90%, while customer loyalty had become legendary in the industry. Competitors had attempted to replicate their approach, but discovered that authentic culture couldn't be manufactured through corporate mandates. Elena Vasquez, a single mother who'd completed the training program after losing her job at a textile factory, now managed the Phoenix location. Her background in quality control had translated perfectly to automotive diagnostics, and her natural empathy made customers feel valued rather than exploited. She represented the type of transformation that had become routine at Rodriguez Centers, people discovering capabilities they'd never known they possessed. Michael Thompson, a former university professor who'd lost his position during budget cuts, had developed the institute's curriculum for hybrid and electric vehicle technology. His academic background brought theoretical depth to practical training, while his recent experience with job loss made him passionate about helping others rebuild their careers. Students appreciated learning from someone who understood both the technical material and the emotional challenges of starting over. The success stories had attracted attention from business schools and government agencies interested in replicating the model. David found himself invited to speak at conferences about innovative hiring practices and character-based recruitment. His presentations always began with the same message: technical skills could be taught, but integrity had to be discovered and nurtured. Marcus had documented the entire journey, from that first highway encounter through the business development and expansion phases. The story had become a case study in ethical business practices, taught in MBA programs as an example of how authentic relationships could drive sustainable success. But for Marcus, the real value lay in proving that his instincts about human nature had been correct. The automotive industry had taken notice of the Rodriguez model, with several major manufacturers offering partnership opportunities. David had declined most of them, recognizing that corporate structures often compromised the very values that made their approach successful. Instead, he focused on organic growth, opening new locations only when they could maintain the culture that defined their service. Rebecca Morrison, the venture capitalist who'd initially questioned David's qualifications, had become one of their strongest advocates. Her fund had provided additional financing for expansion, but more importantly, she'd begun applying character-based evaluation criteria to other investments. The success of Rodriguez Automotive had convinced her that authentic leadership could generate superior returns across multiple industries. Sophia's medical device research had attracted funding from major pharmaceutical companies, but she'd chosen to work with smaller organizations that shared her father's commitment to helping underserved communities. Her diagnostic tools were being tested in rural clinics where expensive medical equipment wasn't available, potentially revolutionizing healthcare delivery in remote areas. The Institute's scholarship program had grown to support over 300 students annually, many of them recommended by social service agencies and community organizations. Former homeless individuals, ex-convicts seeking fresh starts, and immigrants struggling with language barriers all found opportunities to rebuild their lives through technical education and mentorship.
James Park, a former investment banker who'd lost everything in a financial scandal he hadn't participated in, discovered a passion for automotive restoration through the program. His attention to detail and project management skills translated perfectly to complex repair work, and he'd eventually opened a specialty shop focusing on classic electric vehicle conversions. His story proved that career transitions could lead to greater satisfaction than traditional success metrics suggested. The corporate culture at Rodriguez Automotive had influenced Chen Industries as a whole, with character-based hiring becoming standard practice across all divisions. Employee satisfaction surveys showed dramatic improvements while innovation metrics reached record levels. The connection between treating people well and achieving exceptional results had become undeniable. David often reflected on the morning that had changed everything, particularly when he encountered other people facing difficult circumstances. He'd established a private fund to help individuals experiencing temporary hardships, understanding that a little assistance at the right moment could prevent someone from falling into long-term homelessness. The original Tesla that had brought Marcus and David together remained in the Institute's lobby, now serving as inspiration for students who learned that opportunities could appear in the most unexpected circumstances. A simple plaque read, "Character reveals itself when no one important is supposed to be watching." Marcus had continued his experiments with testing human kindness, but they'd evolved from personal curiosity into systematic research. Chen Industries now funded studies on the relationship between ethical behavior and business success, contributing to a growing body of evidence that character-based practices generated measurable advantages. The friendship between Marcus and David had deepened beyond their professional collaboration, built on mutual respect and shared values rather than hierarchy or obligation. They often discussed the responsibility that came with success, agreeing that their achievements meant nothing unless they created opportunities for others to thrive. Sophia had begun teaching part-time at the Institute, sharing her biomedical expertise with students interested in the intersection of automotive and medical technology. Her courses explored how sensor technology, diagnostic procedures and system monitoring could be applied across different fields, encouraging students to think creatively about their skills. The graduation ceremony concluded with David addressing the new graduates, his words carrying the weight of personal experience and genuine conviction. He spoke about the importance of treating every customer interaction as an opportunity to demonstrate competence and compassion, of building trust through transparency, and of remembering that their work served people rather than just machines. As the graduates dispersed to begin their careers, many heading to Rodriguez Automotive locations while others pursued opportunities with partner organizations, David felt the satisfaction that came from meaningful work. He'd built something that would continue long after he was gone, a legacy measured not in financial returns but in lives transformed and communities strengthened. Marcus and David walked together across the Institute campus, observing students working on vehicles in the practice bays, discussing complex technical problems with instructors who'd once faced their own challenges.
The scene represented everything they'd hoped to achieve: skilled professionals developing their capabilities in an environment that valued both excellence and integrity. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd driven past that morning?" David asked as they reached the parking area. Marcus smiled, considering the question that had occurred to him many times over the past 2 years. "I think we would have found each other eventually. People who share the same values tend to discover one another, regardless of circumstances." He paused, looking back at the bustling campus. "But I'm grateful it happened the way it did. That morning reminded me why I started building companies in the first place. Not just to create wealth, but to prove that business could be a force for good in the world." David nodded, understanding that their partnership had accomplished something more valuable than either had imagined possible. They'd demonstrated that character could be a competitive advantage, that treating people with dignity was not only morally right but economically sound. The story of their highway encounter had spread far beyond Chen Industries and Rodriguez Automotive, inspiring other business leaders to reconsider their approaches to hiring, customer service, and corporate culture. The ripple effects continued to expand, touching lives and communities they'd never directly encountered. As they prepared to leave, Sophia approached with news about her latest research breakthrough. Her diagnostic devices had passed preliminary testing and were ready for field trials in rural medical clinics. The technology that had begun with automotive sensors was now poised to improve healthcare access for thousands of underserved patients. The circle was complete, but the story continued. Every student who graduated from the institute, every customer who received honest service at a Rodriguez center, every employee who discovered their potential through character-based opportunity carried the message forward. Kindness wasn't just a nice gesture, it was a practical strategy for building a better world. Years later, when business historians studied the transformation of the automotive service industry, they would trace its origins to a foggy morning on Highway 101, when a homeless man stopped to help a stranger with car trouble. But for those who lived the story, the real lesson was simpler: character reveals itself in quiet moments, and those revelations can change everything. The 10th anniversary celebration of Rodriguez Automotive Centers drew attendees from across the country, transforming the original San Francisco location into a showcase of what character-driven business could accomplish. Industry leaders, government officials, and dozens of former students mingled with current employees, creating a tapestry of lives connected by a single moment of kindness on a foggy highway morning. David Rodriguez moved through the crowd with quiet dignity, his hair now silver at the temples, but his eyes still holding the same compassionate intelligence that had impressed Marcus Chen a decade earlier. He wore a simple navy suit, elegant but unpretentious, embodying the values that had made Rodriguez Automotive a revolutionary force in the service industry. At 62, he carried himself with the confidence of someone who had not only survived adversity, but transformed it into purpose. Marcus Chen stood near the original Tesla display, watching David interact with employees and customers who had traveled hundreds of miles to attend the celebration. The billionaire founder had learned to step back and let David receive the recognition he deserved, understanding that true leadership sometimes meant allowing others to shine. Their friendship had evolved into something deeper than business partnership, built on mutual respect and shared commitment to proving that success could be measured in more than financial terms. The guest list read like a directory of second chances and transformed lives. Maria Santos, the former high school teacher who now directed the Institute's educational outreach programs, had just returned from Washington, D.C., where she'd testified before Congress about innovative workforce development strategies. Her programs had been replicated in 43 states, providing pathways for career transitions that honored people's existing skills while building new capabilities. Dr. Robert Kim, the former Army mechanic who had struggled to find civilian employment, now served as quality assurance director for the entire Rodriguez network. His military precision had evolved into something more nuanced, combining attention to detail with understanding of human complexity. Under his oversight, customer satisfaction ratings had remained consistently above 95% across all locations. Elena Vasquez had become a regional manager overseeing 7 locations across the Southwest, her natural empathy and operational excellence, creating a model that balanced profitability with genuine care for both employees and customers. Her success had attracted attention from major corporations, seeking to understand how character-based leadership could drive sustainable growth. The anniversary celebration featured displays showcasing the evolution of Rodriguez Automotive from a single experimental location to a network of centers that had fundamentally changed industry standards. Customer testimonials filled video monitors, telling stories of honest diagnoses, fair pricing, and respectful treatment that had restored faith in automotive service. But the most powerful displays focused on the human impact. Photographs showed graduates of the training institute in their new careers, many of them supporting families and contributing to communities in ways that would have been impossible without the opportunity for education and mentorship. Statistical analyses demonstrated the correlation between character-based hiring and exceptional performance metrics across multiple measures. Sofia Rodriguez, now Dr. Sofia Rodriguez, had flown in from Geneva, where her medical diagnostic devices were being evaluated by the World Health Organization for global distribution. Her technology, inspired by automotive sensor applications, was revolutionizing healthcare delivery in resource-limited settings. The pride in her father's eyes as she described her work to assembled guests reflected the journey from that scared little girl whose father had hidden his circumstances to protect her education. The evening's keynote speaker was an unexpected choice, Rebecca Morrison, the venture capitalist, who had initially questioned David's qualifications during that first investor presentation. Her transformation from skeptic to advocate represented the broader shift in business thinking that Rodriguez Automotive had helped catalyze. 10 years ago, Rebecca began her address. I met a man who challenged everything I thought I knew about business leadership. David Rodriguez had been homeless just months earlier, yet he stood before a room of investors and proposed revolutionizing an entire industry through character-based hiring and authentic customer service. She paused, looking directly at David in the audience. I questioned whether someone with his background could successfully lead a major business venture. I was asking the wrong question. I should have asked whether the business world was ready for someone with his integrity. Rebecca continued, describing how the success of Rodriguez Automotive had influenced her investment philosophy and the broader venture capital community. Character-based evaluation has become central to our due diligence process. We've learned that leaders who demonstrate genuine care for people consistently outperform those who focus solely on financial metrics. The celebration included presentations from government officials who had studied the Rodriguez model for policy development. Employment training programs across the country had adopted elements of their approach, recognizing that sustainable job placement required attention to both technical skills and personal development. Dr. Michael Thompson, the former university professor who had developed the institute's curriculum, presented research findings that had been published in multiple academic journals. His studies demonstrated measurable correlations between character-based hiring practices and various performance indicators, providing empirical support for approaches that had previously been dismissed as idealistic. The academic validation had been crucial for broader adoption of Rodriguez principles. Business schools now taught case studies examining their methods, while government agencies had funded research into scaling character-based approaches across different industries. The evidence was clear: treating people with dignity and respect wasn't just morally correct, it was economically advantageous. James Park, the former investment banker turned automotive restoration specialist, had become an advocate for career transition programs that honored people's existing skills while providing opportunities for reinvention. His shop specialized in converting classic vehicles to electric power, combining traditional craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology in ways that reflected the Rodriguez philosophy of respecting both heritage and innovation. The anniversary celebration also featured international guests who had come to study the Rodriguez model for implementation in their own countries. Representatives from automotive service industries in Europe, Asia, and South America were exploring how character-based approaches could address similar trust and service quality issues in their markets. One particularly moving presentation came from Dr. Sarah Williams, who directed a program providing automotive training for refugees and asylum seekers. Her organization had partnered with Rodriguez Automotive to create pathways for individuals with engineering backgrounds who needed certification for U.S. employment. The success stories included former university professors, experienced technicians, and skilled craftspeople who had rebuilt their careers through education and mentorship. Marcus took the stage for the evening's closing remarks, his words reflecting on the journey from that foggy morning encounter to the transformation of an entire industry. David Rodriguez taught me that the most important question isn't whether people deserve opportunities, but whether we have the wisdom to recognize potential when it appears in unexpected forms. He gestured toward the displays showcasing the network's growth and impact. What we've built here proves that business can be a force for healing, rather than exploitation. Every satisfied customer, every successful graduate, every employee who discovered capabilities they didn't know they possessed, represents a victory for the idea that character matters in commerce.
The evening concluded with a surprise announcement: the establishment of the Rodriguez Foundation, endowed with $50 million to support character-based business development worldwide. The foundation would provide funding for entrepreneurs who demonstrated commitment to ethical practices, workforce development programs that prioritized human dignity, and research into the relationship between authentic leadership and organizational success. David's acceptance speech was characteristically humble, focusing on the collective achievement rather than personal recognition. This celebration honors everyone who chose to believe that treating people with respect could be more profitable than exploiting their vulnerabilities. Every employee who embraced our values, every customer who trusted us with their vehicles, every student who worked to rebuild their life, contributed to proving that character-based business isn't just possible, it's superior. He paused, his voice carrying the weight of personal experience and genuine gratitude. 10 years ago, Chen could have driven past a broken-down Tesla without stopping. Instead, he chose to trust a stranger with car trouble. That decision changed both our lives and demonstrated that opportunities for good exist in every moment, if we have the courage to recognize them. The anniversary celebration had attracted media attention from business publications, news networks, and documentary filmmakers interested in the broader implications of the Rodriguez story. Their success had become a case study in authentic leadership, sustainable business practices, and the potential for commerce to serve human flourishing, rather than merely generating profit. As guests departed, many carrying materials about implementing character-based approaches in their own organizations, the impact of that foggy morning encounter continued to ripple outward. The conversation about business ethics, employee development, and customer service had shifted fundamentally, with Rodriguez Automotive serving as proof that alternative approaches could succeed in competitive markets. The original Tesla remained in the lobby, its simple plaque drawing visitors who understood that extraordinary outcomes often began with ordinary moments of human decency. Students still gathered around the vehicle to hear the story of their founder's journey from homelessness to industry leadership, learning that circumstances could change but character endured. Sofia Rodriguez had established a scholarship program, honoring her mother's memory, providing support for children of single parents pursuing education in science and engineering. Her success in developing affordable medical technology had opened doors for similar innovations, demonstrating how expertise could cross traditional boundaries to serve broader human needs. The network of Rodriguez Automotive Centers continued expanding, but growth remained carefully managed to preserve the culture that defined their approach. Each new location required extensive preparation, ensuring that local managers understood both technical requirements and philosophical foundations before opening their doors to customers. David often reflected on the unexpected trajectory his life had taken, from the depths of homelessness to industry leadership and international recognition. But he remained grounded by daily interaction with students and employees who faced their own challenges and transitions. His office door stayed open to anyone seeking guidance, advice, or simply someone who understood that setbacks didn't define potential. The anniversary celebration marked not an ending, but a renewed beginning, with commitments to expand the model internationally while maintaining the integrity that had made success possible. Plans were announced for Rodriguez Automotive Centers in Canada, Mexico, and several European countries, each adaptation respecting local cultures while preserving core values of honesty, competence, and respect for human dignity. Marcus and David's friendship had become a model for authentic business relationships, built on mutual respect rather than hierarchy or obligation. They continued meeting regularly, not for formal business purposes, but for the kind of conversations that had shaped their partnership from the beginning, discussions about responsibility, opportunity, and the potential for individual actions to create broader positive change. The story that had begun with a homeless man stopping to help a stranded motorist had evolved into a movement, proving that character could be a competitive advantage, that treating people well was not only morally right, but economically sound. The ripple effects continued expanding, touching lives and communities far beyond the original encounter on Highway 101. As the celebration ended, and participants returned to their respective lives and organizations, they carried with them renewed conviction that business could serve higher purposes than profit maximization. The Rodriguez model had demonstrated that success could be measured in transformed lives, strengthened communities, and the satisfaction that came from work aligned with values. The legacy of that foggy morning encounter would continue growing, inspiring future generations of leaders who understood that the most important technologies were often the oldest ones: kindness, competence, and the courage to see potential in unexpected places. The story proved that character revealed itself in quiet moments, and those revelations could indeed change everything. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.